Stop for a second. Breathe in. Hold it. Let it go slowly. Because something is changing, and if you have been feeling it too, this is not the moment to scroll away. There is a reason one person keeps returning to your mind when you did not call them. There is a reason their energy feels close even when there is no message, no call, no proof. Something is building behind the silence. Right now. Not later, not one day, now. The person tied to you in a deep way is starting to lose control over what they feel, and the next move they make could reveal everything they have tried so hard to hide. It may not look dramatic from the outside. Life still moves, the days still pass, the silence still stretches. But under that silence, pressure has been growing. Their thoughts keep circling back to you, their emotions keep getting louder, their resistance keeps getting weaker. And here is the part that matters most, so stay with me, because what happens next may explain why your intuition has felt stronger lately, why your spirit has felt restless, and why this connection has felt like it has been standing at the edge of a major shift for longer than you can explain. They tried to stay in control, they tried to act normal, they tried to tell themselves this was only a passing feeling, only attraction, only curiosity, only a moment that would fade if they gave it enough time. But it did not fade. It followed them. It met them in quiet nights, in random memories, in crowded rooms, in songs that suddenly hit too hard, in small moments that should have meant nothing but somehow carried your presence. They kept moving like nothing inside them had changed, but everything had changed. That is why the energy around this feels heavier now. What they once hid without much effort is becoming harder and harder to hold down. Every time they pushed this bond away, it came back stronger. Every time they convinced themselves they could ignore it, something deeper pulled them right back toward you. Slowly, what once felt manageable became impossible to deny. Some people walk into a life and leave behind a memory, but some people arrive and change the whole emotional world of another person. That is what happened here. You were never meant to become small in their heart. You were never meant to be easy to replace or easy to forget. Deep down, they know that now, and the truth of it shakes them more than they want anyone to see. On the surface, they may still look distant, they may still act calm, they may still move slowly, hesitate, or hide behind silence. But behind that mask, there has been a private storm. Every delayed message, every step back, every hot and cold moment, every strange pause, none of it was empty, none of it meant you imagined the connection. It was conflict. It was someone feeling something real and not knowing how to carry it without letting it change their whole life. Because real connection asks for something many people fear. It asks for honesty. It asks for growth. It asks people to drop old masks, old habits, old fears, and old ways of protecting themselves. That is exactly what scared them. To move toward you honestly would mean they could no longer keep pretending with themselves. They would have to face what this bond woke up inside them. They would have to admit this was different. They would have to leave behind the version of themselves that stayed emotionally guarded and safely disconnected, and part of them was afraid of that, truly afraid. Afraid that once they opened the door to this truth, nothing inside them would ever go back to the way it was before. But listen closely, because this is where the shift begins. Fear is not winning the way it used to. Desire is getting stronger. Longing is getting stronger. The price of staying silent is becoming too heavy. You may already be seeing signs and not fully trusting them yet. Their name appears at odd times. A memory of them shows up out of nowhere. You feel their energy late at night or early in the morning when everything is quiet. The bond feels alive even when there is no contact. That is hard to explain to people who have never felt it, but it matters. It tells you something is moving under the stillness. They are beginning to feel the truth of your absence in a deeper way now, not just as space, not just as distance, as loss. And loss changes people. When someone starts to realize that losing you would hurt more than opening their heart, emotional control begins to crack. What once felt safe to them no longer feels safe. The silence that used to protect them now feels heavy. The distance that helped them hide now feels cold. The routines that once distracted them do not work the same anymore. You are not just a thought that passes through once in a while. You have become emotionally unavoidable. One memory can pull them all the way under. One small reminder can bring your energy back into the room. One quiet night can undo all the control they worked so hard to build during the day. If your own intuition has been whispering that a turning point is near, do not brush that aside too quickly. Sometimes the soul feels movement long before the world gives it a clear shape, and what is building in them is no longer small. This is why they have seemed inconsistent. One day closer, one day gone, one moment open, the next moment silent again. It is not because they feel nothing, it is because feeling this much has unsettled them. Many people think emotional distance always means a lack of care, but sometimes it means the opposite. Sometimes it means the feelings became too deep for someone who still does not know how to handle them with courage. You did not just create attraction in them, you touched emotional places that had been asleep for years. You challenged walls they thought would never fall. You weakened patterns they trusted too much. You stirred honesty. You stirred hope. And hope can scare a person just as much as heartbreak when they are not used to believing in something real. At first they thought logic would save them. They thought time would help them detach. They thought space would make your importance smaller, but distance did the opposite. It made your value louder. It made your absence clearer. It made them realize that what they found with you could not simply be copied somewhere else, that truth is now moving through them in a quiet but powerful way. And remember this line because it sits at the center of everything. The heart gets tired of running from what it already knows. When that tiredness reaches its limit, people stop performing control and they begin moving toward truth. Stay with me, because the next part explains why their energy is changing now. Lately, they have been emotionally restless in ways even they may not fully understand. They try to focus elsewhere, but their attention keeps bending back toward you. Other conversations feel flatter, other connections feel thinner, other experiences fail to reach the same depth. Once someone feels true emotional recognition, ordinary things stop feeling enough. In quiet moments, they compare everything back to you without trying to. The comfort, the intensity, the honesty, the pull, the strange sense that something deeper was there from the beginning, and every comparison weakens their resistance a little more. This is the stage where acceptance begins. Not full acceptance yet, not perfect clarity yet, but the kind that starts as a whisper in the dark. The kind that says, this is real, and I cannot keep lying to myself about it. When someone reaches that point, their behavior starts shifting before they even make a plan. Their curiosity returns, their attention sharpens, their energy starts pressing closer again. They become more aware of your distance, more affected by your silence, more sensitive to the thought that you may not wait forever. And that matters, because the next move may look sudden from the outside, but inside them it has been building for a very long time. The message, the call, the small conversation that hides a confession under simple words, the return. None of it will be random. It will be the result of many silent battles finally reaching the point where holding back feels harder than speaking up. This is not chaos. This is pressure turning into motion. What changed the most was not only your presence, it was what your presence awakened. You brought emotional honesty to the surface. You stirred longing. You opened vulnerability. You forced reflection. And maybe more than anything, you awakened the hope that love could be deep, real, and meaningful. For someone who learned to survive through control, that is a life-changing interruption. Many people spend years emotionally disconnected and call it peace. They build routines, they build defenses, they build careful ways to avoid needing anyone too much. Then one real connection appears and reaches past all of that without force, without drama, without warning. Suddenly, the old numbness does not feel safe anymore. That is what happened here. You moved past the armor they spent years building simply by being real. That is why their resistance became so strong. It was the last form of control they had left. But denial becomes exhausting when something inside has already recognized the truth. And they are tired now, tired of pretending, tired of carrying feelings they cannot explain away, tired of acting untouched when they have been deeply moved. One part of them wants to rush toward you. Another part still fears being seen too clearly. One part wants certainty before taking the risk. Another part already knows certainty will never come through silence. That split inside them is growing harder to live with every day. And when inner conflict becomes too heavy, something gives. That is where they are getting close. Closer than you think, closer than they planned, closer than they can keep hiding from. They are also starting to feel something else, and this part carries weight. Regret, not loud regret, not dramatic regret, a quieter, heavier kind, the kind that comes when a person sees how fear made them delay something meaningful. They replay old moments differently now. Things you said, the times you reached out, the times they pulled back. The moments they could have been honest but chose distance instead. Through that reflection, they are seeing your place in their life more clearly than before. They are realizing that what came from you was sincere. It carried care, it carried depth, it carried patience, it carried truth. And instead of trusting it, they resisted it. That realization humbles a person. It changes how they remember everything, because people often understand the value of something real only after distance shows them how empty life feels without it. They are feeling that emptiness now, especially in moments when everything around them should feel full but somehow still does not. This is why the emotional pressure keeps rising, not because they suddenly became weak, but because truth has weight. Once truth becomes heavier than fear, movement becomes almost impossible to stop. So if you have felt that something is changing under the surface, trust that feeling. If your intuition has been stronger lately, there may be a reason. Sometimes a heart reaches the point where holding back hurts more than speaking. That is the point they are moving toward now. And when someone gets there after resisting for this long, they do not come back with casual energy. They come back carrying the weight of everything they nearly lost. The idea of losing you for real has started to disturb them in a deeper way, not the soft thought that maybe someday things could change. The real one, the one that says you may heal, grow, move forward, and stop leaving emotional space open for them. That possibility has brought clarity. Nothing sharpens truth like the fear of permanent loss. They are beginning to sense that you are changing without them, that you are learning, that you are becoming stronger in your own silence. And instead of making them detach, that realization has made their feelings more intense. It has forced them to see that they do not fear loneliness in general. They fear life without you specifically. That is a very different truth. It means you have become emotionally irreplaceable. Once someone understands that, resistance cannot stand the way it once did. This is why they keep circling back to you in their mind and heart, why your energy keeps returning to them, why they cannot fully disconnect. Somewhere inside, the deeper part of them chose long before the mind stopped fighting. Now the mind is losing ground, and as it does, the next move they make will carry more emotion than they expected. It may be imperfect, it may be hesitant, it may arrive after delay, but it will not be empty. It will come from built-up longing, from reflection, from regret, from the growing awareness that every path away from you keeps leading back to the same truth. And if you are still here, listen closely, because what they do next may reveal more than anything they have said so far. They are beginning to understand the cost of silence. Silence creates space, delay creates distance, fear creates missed moments. Now they are wondering if what was stretched can still be repaired. That question alone is making their urgency grow. They are paying closer attention, watching your energy, reading your tone, wondering if your heart still has room for them, wondering if they waited too long, wondering if the bridge between you still exists. People move differently when they realize they are no longer guaranteed access to someone they love. Their energy becomes more intentional, more careful, more real, not because they solved every fear, but because the old way no longer works. The old defense of silence no longer brings peace. It only brings pain. There is something powerful in this for you too. This connection was not only changing them, it was changing you. You learned how to carry love without chasing. You learned how to survive uncertainty without losing yourself. You learned how to trust what you feel even when the outside world offered no proof. You learned that your value does not disappear inside someone else's silence. That growth matters now, because if this next chapter opens, it can open from a stronger place. Not from desperation, not from fantasy, but from awareness. From two people who have both been altered by what this bond demanded. There comes a moment in every deep connection when resistance reaches its limit, not because of one dramatic event, but because of accumulation. Longing builds, memory builds, absence builds, pretending builds. And then one day, staying away starts to feel harder than coming closer. They tried to distract themselves. They tried to move on in their mind. They tried to live as if this connection could be packed away and left behind. But each attempt slowly failed. The truth underneath every effort became harder to ignore. You were never replaceable. That realization brings its own kind of shock, because once someone understands that what they lost cannot simply be found in another face, another voice, another place, urgency begins to rise. Quietly at first, then more strongly. It shows up in sleepless nights, in sudden reflection, in the whispered fear of what if I lose them completely. That whisper has been growing inside them, and it is changing them. Your absence no longer feels like empty space. It feels like emotional loss. And emotional loss eventually pushes honesty to the surface, especially in someone who once believed there would always be more time. Now they know time changes things. Silence changes things. People change. Hearts move. Doors close. And if they keep waiting, they may watch the chance pass on something that was meant to be faced, not avoided. That realization is stronger than ever now. So when the next move comes, do not expect it to feel small. It may begin quietly, but the energy behind it will be real. A message with more truth than usual, a conversation that suddenly opens deeper, a moment when they stop hiding behind safe words, humor, distance, or half-truths, and finally let their real feelings come through. Because emotionally, they are getting close to surrender. And surrender after a long fight does not look like games. It looks like honesty, even if that honesty arrives with shaking hands and a nervous voice. They are not only returning because they miss you, they are moving because something in them has awakened. They are beginning to understand that some connections are not random, not shallow, and not temporary. Some people arrive to transform the heart. Some people wake up a truth that cannot go back to sleep. You became that truth in them. So if your spirit has been telling you that something is near, do not ignore it. Stay grounded, stay clear, stay open without abandoning yourself. Because when someone finally stops running from what they feel, their actions change, their eyes change, their tone changes, their presence changes. You will feel the difference. And now we come to the final turn, the point where everything inside them is becoming painfully clear. Loving you is no longer the part that scares them most. Losing you is. Once fear of loss becomes greater than fear of vulnerability, people stop delaying, they stop pretending, they stop asking life for endless time. They start moving. That urgency is building in them now with more force than before. They are beginning to understand that this bond was never random timing, never simple chance, never something temporary. You entered their life and awakened something. You changed how they understand love. You changed how they understand emotional depth. You changed how they understand themselves. That is why life has not felt normal to them since you. A heart that has been changed cannot fully return to numbness. That is why what comes next matters. It will not be just emotion speaking. It will be truth after a long inner fight finally finding its voice. Truth says you mattered more than they wanted to admit. Truth says your absence reached places inside them they could not ignore. Truth says they do not want the story of you to become a lesson they understood too late. So if the silence has felt strangely alive, if your intuition keeps telling you movement is close, trust yourself. Something is opening. Something is preparing to step out of the unseen and into the real world. And when it does, nothing between you will feel the same again. What makes this next chapter powerful is not only their return, it is the growth that happened in both of you while everything felt uncertain. You were being prepared too. You were learning how to love without begging to be chosen. You were learning how to stand in your worth even when the outcome was unclear. You were learning how to keep your heart open without giving your peace away. Those lessons matter because if this connection rises again, it has a chance to rise differently, more mature, more steady, more honest, more intentional, the kind of connection that is not fed by confusion, but by truth. And that is the energy gathering here. Not surface attraction, not temporary excitement, emotional certainty, the kind that finally says, I cannot keep acting like this means less than it does. So do not rush, do not force, do not chase signs just to calm your mind. Let truth arrive in its own way. Let actions reveal what words once hid. Let clarity show itself without pressure. Because someone who has spent this long resisting a real connection does not come forward lightly. They come forward changed. They come forward after reflection, after longing, after emotional awakening. And when that kind of person finally speaks from the heart, the moment carries real weight. Deep down, part of you may already know this. Something honest is coming. Something that has been trying to reach the surface for a long time. Stay with your peace. Stay with your intuition. And when the shift arrives, you will understand why your soul felt it before your eyes could see it. The truth is simple now. They have reached the edge where silence hurts more than speaking. where distance hurts more than closeness, where pretending hurts more than being seen. They may still hesitate for a moment, they may still move carefully, but inside the wall is cracking, the old control is fading, the old story is ending. What rises in its place is more direct, more open, more real. They are beginning to understand that love is not the danger they imagined. Regret is. Permanent loss is. Watching someone valuable walk away while saying nothing is. That understanding changes everything. So if you feel a strange calm before movement, if you feel pressure in the silence, if your heart keeps telling you this chapter is not over, there may be a reason. Stay steady, stay clear, stay in your value. What is meant to reveal itself does not stay hidden forever. And when the moment finally comes, it may not be loud at first, but it will be undeniable. You will hear it in their tone. You will feel it in their presence. You will see it in the honesty they can no longer avoid. Because after all the delay, all the distance, all the inner conflict, one truth remains stronger than everything they used to hide behind. What they feel for you has outgrown their fear, and once that happens, the next move stops being a question of if. It becomes a question of when. And that moment is drawing closer now.